Okay, good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for taking your precious time to be with us in this webinar. I would like to share with you some overview of the courses that Simtech offers under the Advanced Surface Engineering, and hopefully that will help you to decide to take the course. Now, before I go into sharing about the course overview, please allow me to share that the surface treatment and coatings are key technologies that are used across many industries. It is used to enhance engineering tools and components in many industries, such as precision engineering, automotive, aerospace, medtech, and electronics. Other examples are like the hard chrome and nickel coatings, which are used to enhance aesthetic finishing, to provide functional performance, prevent the wear against corrosion, and also to improve the fatigue life of many types of components and applications, so as to maximize the economic benefits for companies and businesses. In addition, industrial coatings are critical for corrosion prevention in industries like oil and gas, marine and offshore, shipping, and also civil engineering and construction. In summary, coatings are used for many purposes, such as corrosion prevention, wear prevention, or erosion mitigation, improving metal fatigue life, minimizing friction, maximizing flow, or even maintaining purity. Right, as in any industry, it will be good and interesting to understand the industry potential. So some market research data has shown that the surface engineering is a growing industry. For example, global paints and coating markets is expected to grow from 140 billion in 2015 to 164 billion by 2021. And for global metal finishing market, is expected to grow at 6.5% CAGR from 64 billion in 2014 to 93 billion in 2020. In Asia Pacific, which is closer to us and more meaningful, you can see that surface engineering accounts for 40% of total global demand in 2015, representing a major market for paints, coatings, and metal finishing. It's also expected to grow at 6.5% CAGR between 2015 and 2020, and expected to grow further, driven by automotive and electronics industries in China and India. And from another perspective, in terms of market segment, you can see that the architectural and decorative segments account for 51% of a total value of paints and coating market. And automotive segment accounts for 21 billion or 15% of total value of metal finishing market. This slide shows the ecosystem of surface engineering. It encompasses chemical and material suppliers, equipment supplier, also and service integrators, coating suppliers, also service providers and or applicators, and finally product or asset owners. So companies in this ecosystem will have vested interest to upgrade their knowledge and skill in surface engineering so as to be more efficient, productive, and also competitive. Now, one effective way to achieve this is through industry training. Now, Simtech also provide, besides the public classes, we also provide the corporate training where we can customize the training syllabus according to the company's needs. As you can see earlier, many industries and applications rely on coatings. Hence, when there is a coating failure, it can result in significant impact for businesses. There are two types of coating failures. There's a premature failure and catastrophic failure. Now, premature failure occurs when you need to replace the coating before the expected lifespan. And catastrophic failure is very sudden and is a severe destruction of the coating. Now, regardless of the type of failure, the cost of coating failure is not a small matter. It can have a significant impact on the company's bottom line when cost is incurred to repair the damaged surface or to replace the coating or equipment. There's also labor costs incurred to do the repair and replacement. On top of that, there's revenue loss due to equipment downtime and production rejects. And perhaps more serious would be the safety hazard posed to workers and the general public, and even environmental destruction. And let's not forget, there's reputational damage and loss of business as well. One article that I've come across mentions that corrosion problems where coating to prevent corrosion costs the shipping industry about $80 billion a year. Now, due to the high cost of failure in coatings, companies would have vested interest or should be concerned about the coating defects, as it can happen at differing times in a coating's life. It can happen during application, where then you will encounter runs or sags, or perhaps even after application where you will have orange peel effect if the coating is not applied correctly, or perhaps even any time after that, blistering or even rust can occur. What I've shown here is only 4 examples of coating defects. There are plenty more, about 17 plus, which you will learn in the course that we are introducing today. Now, due to the importance of coatings, and for a matter of fact, surface engineering, Simtech has put together several courses under the Advanced Surface Engineering. Simtech is one of the SkillFutures, a continuing education training center for reskilling and upskilling of engineering talents in advanced manufacturing and precision engineering. We have 2 existing modules that we have conducted since 2012. The 2 modules is Advanced Coating Technologies for Wear and Corrosion Protection, and Fundamentals of Corrosion and Corrosion Prevention. So since 2012, for these 2 courses, we have trained 227 PMETs from 110 companies via public and corporate classes. And this year, we are launching 2 new courses. That is the Surface Enhancement and Finishing Technologies, and Coating Failure Prevention and Coating Improvement. Today's webinar, my colleague and I are introducing the Coating Failure Prevention and Coating Improvement. Dr. Sandor will share more on the details of this course later. So you might be wondering, how can I benefit from these courses? Through the course, you should be able to upgrade your knowledge and critical skills. And in particular, for today's course that we are introducing, to develop skills to spot coating failure, and also how to conduct failure analysis and identify root cause. And from there, to apply effective mitigation strategies. Our course is not just based on theory teaching in classrooms, but it's based on what we call the learn, practice, implement model, where you can use what you've learned in the classroom to practice in the laboratory, and then followed by implementation via project work. Our students can also leverage on the extensive knowledge and experience of our trainers that have been gained through their research work, and also in helping industry to solve the problems. Okay, through this course, you will also be able to get the local support from Simtech because we are locally based here. And you can also establish industry networking among the students. Upon completion of the course, you get the WSQ certificate. And perhaps a better still is that it is not hard on your wallet because there's generous funding from Skills Future, which I will touch on more in the second part of the sharing after Dr. Sandor's sharing. All right. So this slide is my final one for the first segment. I would like just to show Simtechs Footprint in surface engineering. Simtech has 4 key technologies in surface engineering. Firstly, in PVD and thermal spray, then functional coating, laser and mechanical, and electrochemical. Now, through these 4 capabilities, we have extensive collaboration with local companies, big and small, SMEs, MNCs, and even large local enterprises, and across many industries. As you can see here, oil and gas, consumer electronics, semiconductor, automotive, medtech, and construction. And therefore, we have the knowledge and also the know-how to be able to help you to upgrade and to be more competent in your job. So with that, I would like to pass the time to my colleague, Dr. Sandor, to share with you more details on the course. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Chi-Chen, for the introduction. I quickly tried to share my slides. Okay, hopefully it works well. Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sandor. I am the module leader for the course that we are introducing today, Review Coating Failure Prevention and Coating Improvement. Okay, as Chi-Chen mentioned, we have a number of courses that have been developed over the years. So surface enhancement is one, that's module 1. Coatings for wear protection, module 2. The quality control and failure analysis issues, that's module 3. And corrosion characterization. So today we are looking at module 3, which addresses how to improve coating quality, how to prevent or mitigate coating failures, and also, of course, how to identify what may go wrong with the coatings. For example, we are going to cover mechanical failure and chemical failure, among other issues. Okay, so what is in the module 3? So basically, the content covers coating failures due to materials, defective or inappropriate materials, failures due to application processes, and also failures due to use conditions. Now you have a failed coating, then you want to find out something about this failed coating, then usually you do some laboratory experiments. So a big question is how to handle such failed coatings, failed samples properly, because if they are not handled properly, then actually the mishandling can prevent the identification of the problems, the root cause of the problems. So once you have this failed sample, then the first step, of course, to identify the coating failure. What is actually the failure? It's a diagnosis. And then once the failure is identified, then the next question, of course, what is the root cause? Why did it fail, basically? What may have caused this problem? And once we have the root cause, then we may be able to propose some methods, some approach to prevent or to mitigate coating failures in the future. So these are the basic skills that we are going to cover. And based on these skills, the participants should be able to do a planning and implementation of coating failure analysis, and also to communicate the results of this analysis. And I would like to note that corrosion is a very large topic, and we won't be able to cover corrosion in depth, but it will be covered to some extent because it's one of the very common failure processes, corrosion of the coating or under the coating. And if you are interested in corrosion, we can also recommend a separate module, which will be run later on, that is fully dedicated to corrosion matters. Okay, so what is the structure of the course? So first, we are going to start with classroom learning. This makes it possible to get familiar with the various failure types and failure of not just one, but many different types of coatings. So after this initial so-called theoretical studies, you will have the chance to do hands-on laboratory learning, where we can show some of the tools that are used in coating analysis. And once these two parts are finished, classroom and laboratory sessions, then we have an interim written assessment, which is an open book assessment. And after this, we dedicate the rest of the time for individual or small group project work to analyze actual coating failures. But there is some level of freedom in selecting the project topic. Basically, we are offering, I think, usually three very distinct project topics. And depending on the demand, if the demand is equal, then everyone can have the preferred topic. If not so equal, then may have to go for the second options or second preferences. But basically, there's a chance that you can actually select the project that you are most interested in. And also, if the participants are sponsored by a company, then we can also consider to set up a project such a way that is very much related to the company processes. Of course, this will only be done if we can find the resources to implement such a project. So this can be discussed specifically later on. And then the last part of the project, of course, to get the certificate, need to pass a final assessment, which is basically to be able to submit a proper project report and present these results in the project report. Okay, so the other question that many people may ask are the prerequisites. So there aren't really very strict prerequisites, but of course, if someone is familiar with coatings, worked in the coating industry, that is very desirable, because that already gives a very strong base from which to build up the failure analysis related knowledge. And so it's not required, but if it happens so that you have completed a prior WSQ course related to coatings, that may also be helpful, because some of the concepts that you need to apply probably have been taught in those courses. But you don't have to have any prior course. The module can be taken as a standalone unit, because all the key concepts will be covered that are needed for the completion of the course. Okay. We have 4 trainers, myself, Sándor, Marcin, Dybowski. So both of us mostly focus on paints and wet chemical coatings. Dr. Jiangfeng, who is focusing on wear-resistant coating, and Dr. Tan Yong-Teg, who will cover the electrochemically deposited coating. So all trainers have many years of experience, both in teaching and in coating development, as well as coating failure analysis. In fact, many of the concepts that are presented in the course are a result of various coating failure analysis that we have been doing in the past for various companies. So this is a detailed schedule of the course. So we have a total of 14 sessions, each 3 hours long, and maybe just quickly go through the sessions. So session 1 is an overview to introduce the main concepts, and also to provide a case study on scratch resistance. Session 2 is to provide knowledge on the failures related to substrate and interface issues. Session 3 is covering failures related to coating formulations and coating use conditions. Session 4 covers wear-resistant coatings. Session 5, electrochemically deposited coatings. So after this knowledge build-up, you can then proceed with the 2 laboratory sessions where you can learn how to measure certain coating properties. And this gives a basic knowledge that you should be able to use to complete the written assessment, which is a 1.5 hour long assessment. Multiple choice questions are to be answered. And at the same time, we are going to set up the project assignments as well. So we decide who does what project, and each person may be assigned to a group and to a trainer for this project work. Then the rest of the sessions will be dedicated for the project planning, project implementation, with very close tutoring by the trainers. And then the last session is the assessment, where the project reports will be reviewed and a brief presentation may be provided. Okay, so some of the highlights from the course. So we are going to learn about how to classify coating defects. For example, a few defects are adhesion problems, cracking problems, scratch problems, or maybe blistering. These are just a few, there are many more, of course. So you need to learn, you see a failed coating, you need to have some idea how to classify, how to identify the coating problem. So once you identify that, of course, you also need to do some measurements to make sure that you can figure out what is the problem. So you need to learn how to measure some of the coating properties. You also need to understand how to use materials and what are the properties of materials, because these, of course, will have a major effect on coatings and on coating failures as well. And finally, also need to understand the processes leading to failure. For example, there may be contaminants, there may be mechanical impacts, and many other chemical impacts, for example. So need to understand how to apply, how to bring it together, the symptom, what you see, what you can find out about these defects, what are the materials involved, what are the processes involved. So eventually, you should be able to tell how the coating failed, why it failed, and hopefully you can also give some ideas how to improve on the coating later on. So what kind of coatings we are going to cover here? So one is paints, wet chemical coatings, which can be applied on metals, plastics, or even for architectural applications. Hard coatings for wear resistance, and also electrochemically deposited coatings, metals or anodic coatings, for example. So what areas we are looking at is basically understand the quality systems, because when you do a coating operation failure analysis, you need some kind of a formal system in a company. So we are touching on that briefly, how to implement quality systems, then how to classify, identify the coating defects, how to identify the root cause for the defect, how to implement corrective action, and also how to plan, implement, and communicate failure analysis in the coating area. Then who can benefit? Actually, the coating failure analysis is quite useful for a varied group of people. For example, paint and coating formulators, because if the formulator knows what are the potential problems, the formulator can actually understand better how the formulation will affect the eventual use of the coating. Coating applicators, both engineers and managers, may benefit, because awareness of what may go wrong during the coating process is very useful to prevent the problems. If there are problems, it's good to be able to identify what are the types of the coating failures, because that can help to determine the root cause, and of course, implement corrective action. So if we are a coating applicator, we always want to be able to implement the corrective action as well. Otherwise, the coating operations may not work out very well. The failure rate is too high. The economy of the coating won't be there. And even end users of coatings who are not very much concerned about coating applications can benefit, because coatings can fail during use if the use conditions are too harsh, for example. Also, if there is a coating failure, they should be able to suggest some investigation why the coating failed. And also, the course may be able to give some knowledge, to technical knowledge, how to effectively negotiate some disputes with suppliers. And those who like detective stories may also like this course, because failure analysis is much like detective work. So you need to find out what are the facts, you need to give some, set up some hypothesis, and then you need to prove your hypothesis. It may or may not be proven. If it's not proven, then you may have to get a new hypothesis and try to prove that one with facts and with measurements. Of course, the big difference is that in the detective stories, you usually cannot have experiments. In the coating failure analysis, they can do experiments. So you have a lot more tools to get results. And then we do quite a bit of laboratory work. So this will limit the class size. So due to the limited places, it's best to register soon, because we have to cut off after a certain number of registrants are in place already. So that's all I have to share now. And I pass back the presentation to Chichienden. Okay, thank you.
Hey, thanks, Sandor. Yeah, let me try to share the screen again. Oh, I think you need to unshare first.
Okay, just a moment. Sorry.
Or
okay,
can you guys see my slides already? Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Okay, can you guys see the slides already?
Yes, it can be seen.
Okay, all right, thanks. Thanks, Dr. Sandor. All right, I continue on with the part 2 of my sharing. There's a course schedule, funding, and registration. All right, the course will start on the May 4th. That is the first session. And as Dr. Sandor has earlier shared, there are in total 14 sessions. And the venue will be at the Simtechs at the Fusionopolis 2. The nearest MRT station is of 1 North. And the time is from 6:30 to 9:30. And then at the end, the last session, there is a assessment that's on the 22nd of June. All right. With regards to the venue, because there's also lab sessions, right? So is in any case very nearby the 2 buildings. There's a level 6 and also at the lab will be at the same building lah. I'm sorry about it. It's at the same building. Yeah, just at a different level. Okay. So with regards to funding, which I mentioned earlier, so the full cost, although it's $3,000, that is before the funding and GST. There's generous funding, especially if you are a Singapore citizen, permanent residents. In fact, from this year onwards, this funding has also been extended to long-term visit pass holders that is eligible, up to 70% of the funding. And therefore, you only need to pay 963. And then on top of that, if you are a Singapore citizen, 40 years old and above, there is still additional funding that you can tap on. That is the mid-career enhanced subsidy. And therefore, you only need to pay 363. And also for companies that are sponsored by SMEs, you will get further funding up to, I think, 90%, right? So you only pay about the 10%. There's the 363. So just to note that the above fees here are inclusive of the GST, all right? Okay, so I've mentioned about the MECS scheme that you can get up to 90%. And also for the sponsored by SME companies, you can get up to 90% as well, right? And on top of that, if you have Skills Future credit, that on also potentially you can tap on for self-sponsored Singaporeans, but you must be 25 years old and above, all right? So as I mentioned earlier, actually it is not hard on your wallet to take up reskilling and upskilling nowadays, right? So I move on. Yeah. So to go about the registration, you can actually go to the website that is displayed over here, or you can even do your QR scanning through the slide over here. Yeah, this is for you to go to the website, and or you want to go directly to the registration page, you can scan the QR code here, right? If you want information on the schedules on the brochure, feel free to scan from the QR codes here. Okay, once you are at the registration page, it's quite simple. You just need to enter the modular this information, the modular program, then to select Advanced Surface Engineering, and then you click on Review Coating Failure Prevention and Coating Improvement. Yeah, this is the one that we will be running first this year. As I mentioned, there are actually 4 courses under the Advanced Surface Engineering. So click on the right one. Yeah. All right. So I think human capital, as we always say, is the most important asset for Singapore because we don't have natural resources, right? So I hope as an individual and also as a company, you realize that sometimes people may view like training can be quite destructive, but if you were to consider that if you don't train, your competition is actually training now, right? And I would like to end my presentation to say that the only thing worse than training employees and losing them is to not train them and keep them. All right. Okay. So if you need more information about the course, you can feel free to contact Dr. Sandor, myself, or even contact our knowledge transfer office. So all these information are available here. I leave them on here, and then we can move on, I think, to the next segment for question and answers lah. All right. Okay. I think there are some questions, right? Okay. Maybe Tom, you might want to help me to assist a bit to pull out that questions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. No problem, Zhixian. Right. Okay, before I go into Q&A, right, we actually would like to find out how is everyone's response to the program, your interest level. So I'm actually releasing a poll right now, which will help you answer the poll, and then we'll get back to you to find out, to provide you with more information about this training program. Okay, so I'm releasing it now. Okay, so for Q&A, I believe this is for Dr. Sandor. So Zhao Xingfang is asking about a surface corrosion problem. They are actually precision machining of semiconductor. The product material is Styltex. The surface electroplating is a nickel metal plating, and operating environment is flux. And there is a certain temperature. So after a period of time, surface corrosion occurs. He's asking whether you have any suggestions or methods to tackle this issue. Dr. Sandor, please.
Okay, thank you for the question. Okay, so maybe to answer the question, the technical question, this may not be the right forum, I think. But in terms of the course that we are conducting, actually nickel plating is part of the course. The trainer who is in charge of that part is unfortunately couldn't attend today, but this is one area that we are going to cover actually. So if you want to learn about it in the course, please do register. We have this part, and even if you, let's say, want to find out more about it, there is a potential that we can tailor the project work to involve this question. Now, if you would like the actual answer, then I think maybe you can set up a separate discussion for that one.
If I may add on, just to apologize that not all my trainer colleagues are here today, unfortunately, but we'll take note of the question. But also just to share that many of the participants that have joined us before do bring some of the challenges that they face in their work into the course. And as I mentioned, our course have one part of the course have the a project work, right? In fact, then you can actually bring in your work challenges as well, and we can form a project out of the problems that you are facing. All right, and of course, depending on the extent of the problems that you're facing, even after the course, right, we can still formulate some collaboration to work together with the company to find the effective solutions, right? Okay. All right, I think there's another question from the floor, right? Sabrina, right? Maybe we want to allow her to talk, right? Or she...
Sure. Sabrina, would you like to speak, or would you prefer to type in the chat box? I allow you to. I given you the.
Maybe just allow her to speak.
Yeah. Feel free to unmute yourself and ask the question if you prefer.
Oh, okay. She said she accidentally pressed, right? Okay, right. While we wait for some other question, maybe we can move on. I think we got another question for survey, right? For them, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. Now I'm releasing a second poll. Give me a minute. Okay, this is on technology. So talking about which coating related areas would you like Simtechs to assist you with? Launch it. Okay. At the same time, there's a second question from the Q&A. Mr. Mike Ellsworth asking how often will you run the course? He'll be covering during the current dates that we are training. So Sandor, when's the next run?
Okay. So at the moment we have only this particular course for May run. So we don't have any other date yet, but if there is sufficient interest, we can actually set it up any time after June as well. And probably I cannot confirm it for sure, but we are going to run other courses later in September, October. So we may be able to see whether there is enough demand for this one. If there is, we may be able to repeat it again. But I don't know, Chichen, maybe?
Yeah.
Any suggestion?
Yes, if I may add on, that actually, as you earlier saw, that we have 4 courses under the Advanced Surface Engineering. So in July, we will run this first module under Dr. Sandor first. Then we planned the other courses in July, September, and November. All right, if I can recall correctly, we have these 4 courses we spread out over the year in July, July, September, and November, and of course May. May is the one that Dr. Sandor's course. So you can see that it's actually quite tight over the year, and plus our researchers and scientists, they are also having their other workload on hand besides the research work, industry essays, and then this training course. So currently, we are planning only once a year, but of course we are open get feedback from industry. If there's also strong request, we can consider to run another round, yeah, of the course within the same year, right? But do try to make it for this particular run. Just also to share that for the course to complete and obtain the certificate, I think you need to achieve about is it 75% attendance, right? So maybe you are not able to attend 1 or 2 sessions, and I think that is acceptable. But of course, to help you in your assessment, we may also arrange for some makeup or revision for you during the days that you are able to attend. Maybe either you come earlier a little bit for scientists and researchers to revise with you, all right? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Chen. There's actually another question asking about timing. Mr. Rajavu is asking whether there's a daytime for your training.
Oh, okay. As I also shared the timing for all our WSQ courses are typically run in the evening, right? 6:30 to 9:30. Reason is because, well, we try to cater to companies' operations and needs, all right? Because while companies are supportive to send their employees for training, we also want to understand that the productivity of workers is also one concern, and therefore not to be disruptive. I think so far we feel that the good time will be in the evening. But for corporate classes, there's a different consideration. Let's say if your company wants to have a corporate class for your staff, right? And typically for corporate class is more flexible. We can consider to do it during the office hours, right? Of course, with the agreement and alignment with the company. So instead of doing evening, we can also do during office hours for corporate classes, because it's easier, right? Only one company is involved compared to public classes where there are maybe many companies. Some are more stringent than the others in terms of releasing their staff for training, on the hours. Okay.
Yeah. And I think continuing on the question, Mr. Sing Fang is asking whether it's available online as a Zoom training. Not too sure whether it's possible because of the lab sessions involved. Would you like to elaborate?
Yeah, maybe to share this is that pre-COVID time, I think of course it's always the physical training, right? And then when we enter into COVID, and then we for some of courses we went online, all right. But then over the online, there's also limitations, because as my colleague mentioned, some sessions are actually practical sessions, lab-based and projects and all that. So during the COVID time, there's also difficulty for us to manage this. And then there's also a feedback that we get is that some people really miss the physical class environment, and also the so-called interactions. And I think by and large, I think the most people also wanting to come back to physical class. So the short answer for this is that currently there's no plan to run this on the Zoom, unless the situation, COVID situation takes a nasty turn. Then we may have to assess and perhaps move back to Zoom where possible, okay, right?
Yep. Is there any more questions from the audience, from the participants? Any burning questions you'd like to ask Dr. Sendor today? Or any question asked about funding, your eligibility, how we can help you? Any question about SkillsFuture? Feel free to drop in the chat box or in the Q&A, or you can always raise your hand. We'll unmute you, and then we can take questions from there. to take some opportunity to actually speak directly to the trainers.
Okay, I guess if there is no further questions, I guess I would like to thank everyone for making time to be with us. So I really hope that our sharing today gives you a good understanding of this course that we are launching. And perhaps you can decide to sign up soon because we need to make the preparation ahead, the administrative work and all that, so that we can start in May, right? So from my side, I really want to thank all for coming today for the webinar, right? Then Tom, have any more things that you might want to say before perhaps we can end the webinar? Yeah.
No, I just want to echo what Dr. Sandor said that slots are limited. So you're keen in this program, please sign up quickly because there's only so much space we have in the lab to do this training. And I believe this is a program that the only thing you're already investing in is your time because it's heavily funded by the government, 90% funding, you only pay $300. Where are you going to get such a good deal? So do it register quickly. If you need any help registrations, reach out to either Chi Chen, Sandor, or myself, and we will be happy to help you out.